Okay, I got a large piece this time. Another large piece. Let's see if I can reduce this with the snapping in half. There's a potential for a lot of nice flakes off of this one. Oh yes. It feels heat treated. It's very nice. A lot of delicate edges though, so I gotta remove those. Yeah. So just go around and knock off all those little delicate areas. And there's some odd looking contours. Gotta get rid of the chalky stuff. Yeah. Let's see. There's some nice colors in it. But I never tried to preserve any of the colors. Or try to work around anything that I want to keep. Because when I do that, I tend to end up with a really thick area in the area that I want to keep. And it can lead to a really weird looking wonky finished point. With a big old, it's a pretty thick, it's a nice looking thick spot, but it's a thick spot that looks weird. If I try to preserve if I guarantee to preserve that area that's got nice color, it's going to be thick. And it's not desirable. Nope, nope, not desirable. Yeah, there's some areas on here that are questionable. You know, questionable. Like, what should I do? There's really no good strategy for those. Just gotta wing it. Hope for the best. Yeah, it naps very easy, so it feels heat treated. Very nice. I like heat treated material, especially when I have a cut that's kind of painful. Heat treat doesn't require much force to make it flake. That's a nice part. If it's not heat treated, this is some of the best chert that I've napped as far as flakeability, but I think it is heat treat. We'll see. Yeah, I could probably make something out of that. These are going to be cool arrowheads. Of course, there's not much of a market for the small ones, but they're going to look nice. Maybe, as long as I use nice material for the small ones, I can get a good price. Maybe that's the secret. Maybe that's the secret. Yeah, the funny thing is, you spend just as much time on the small ones as you do on the big ones. But man, it's going to be nice. These translucent pieces are nice. So I'm going to enjoy making little ones out of those pieces. I guess that matters too. It matters if you enjoy what you're doing, that's for sure. Now, can I get some big old spalls off of this? Yeah, I'm gonna try, but that's dicey on something like this because I could smack it right in half. But you know me, I'll attack those turtlebacks. That's gonna make a nice atlatl. dart point. I got to be careful with those though. Very careful. Tiptoe through the tulips. Yeah, I didn't strike that quite deep enough, but it's always another opportunity. Not always, but usually there's another opportunity. If you do it right, you do have to think ahead a little bit, at least a little bit. Thinking ahead requires conscious thought. You can't leave it to your subconscious to think ahead. Thinking ahead and planning ahead is a conscious thought, because there are options. When you're thinking ahead, there's various options, or there should be various options, and you've got a little arbiter, the decision maker in your brain, that has to make the decision when you're thinking ahead. Which way are you going to take? And if you study philosophy at all, some philosophers have a hard time defining what the self is, to the extent that sometimes they'll say there is no self. It's all just reactions. Everything's a reaction to stimulus. Well, that arbiter that plans or that thinks ahead, they think the decision maker is the self. Yeah. Something has to make the decision. If you think it's all subconscious, the subconscious doesn't understand everything. It doesn't really understand thinking ahead very well either. It can react. The subconscious is good at reacting, and it's good at holding habits. But as far as planning, like if you're in a dream and you remember your dream, try planning the next series of actions in your dream and see if it works according to your plan. See if it's even close. It's not even close. You can't plan ahead. The subconscious really doesn't understand planning ahead. It's very reactive. Okay. So yeah, planning ahead requires you to think about it, and sometimes you think about it a little too much. That's the danger of this kind of thing. Since it is risky, thinking about it too much is not that productive. There's a lot of see what happens with a general plan, and you adjust as you go. You're thinking ahead a little bit, and eventually you'll make a point, right? The point, or the object that you finally come up with, is a manifestation of your will. It is what you willed to a large extent. Not completely, because there's risk, and it's not going to go exactly how you think, but you can get pretty close. All right. And you can't get close just by reacting. You can get close to the final thing that you want through habit over and over and over. But with new material, with new tools, if there's a learning curve, it requires conscious thought, because you haven't built up the habit yet. The subconscious doesn't understand the material, doesn't understand what's going on. It's reactive, yes, but it doesn't really plan on the next move. It imitates the moves that you've been doing over and over again. Yeah, it knows how to imitate. It knows how to hold a habit. Anyway, a lot of times that's why you have recurring dreams, the same thing over and over. It's the habit. It's a habit. Your brain is in that habit of thinking in a certain way. All right, let's see. I really gotta think about how I'm gonna attack that square edge. It's not really a square edge. It's just very bulky. You know, there's times when you can run flakes across the ridges, but there's really no good option for me to do that right now. I think I sharpened that a little bit too much in the beginning. I can try a scoop out. You know, hit it there and then hope to scoop it out, because I'm way above center line. The only way to get, you know, if you're above center line, you usually just skim the top. But if you scoop it out, a lot of times it'll scoop into the material, and then when it comes out the other side, it takes a lot with it as it tries to come out of the depth, out of the dive. It dives and scoops in, and then when it tries to come out of the dive, it may take a lot with it. There's a danger that the scoop could just be a scoop, like, and then it's not that good. But sometimes when it comes out of that dive, it'll take a lot of it with it on the other side. And that one I detached on the slide just so I can not risk too much mass taken off, because if I gouged it, it does scoop it a lot, but it risks taking too much. That was okay. Yeah. A little bit flatter. Let's see. I need to get rid of a lot of mass. Yeah. The edge is a little bit too bumpy, so I got to remove some of those lumps and create a more flat platform area. Yeah. See, when you remove flakes down, this platform area becomes smoother in theory. Right? Is that focusing? Yeah, it looks blurry, I don't know. Anyway, I abrade both ways, that way first and then this way. Why this way first? Because it moves the edge that way. You do want to try to get below center line in many cases, in most cases I guess, or at center line. It just helps the flakes to travel better. You don't have to do anything fancy. It's just a straightforward flake removal. The lower the platform, but not too low, the more straightforward the flake removal. It just goes kind of straight. So yeah, I don't need anything fancy. I just need flakes to start traveling past halfway this way and then past halfway that way. You can go past halfway in both the length and the width and thin it down. Okay, it's not the rule about going past halfway doesn't only pertain to side strikes, it also pertains to end strikes. So this is an end strike. The ideal thing would be to have it go past halfway, and then I can thin it down. It doesn't always work that way, but it's cool when it does work that way. thinking ahead, I got to think about these two platforms specifically. I do like to set up two platforms at least. If it's not a continuous platform, I'd like to set up at least two platforms. Hit there first. If that doesn't work, I can hit that. Yeah, I don't want to take that first. It's best to thin the ends down first. That's your first priority, thin the ends. So you take the strike that'll thin the end down first. You don't want big fat ends on there because it snaps in half easy. But it's also dicey to hit the ends. But I don't know. This has got a lot of mass, so it shouldn't snap in half. It's not an ideal strike. Why? Because it's already thin here. Ideal strike would probably be here, but that would remove too much of the length. I want to try to cheat a little bit and remove mass from something that's not going to take too much off the length. So we'll see. I did not hit hard enough. It makes a nice little flake. But yeah, it's supposed to go further. So, but I can do the next one. And no, I didn't do that on purpose. I would rather not have that happen. Let's see. I'm going to lower that a little bit. The flatter the surface is, the better the flakes travel. All right. Okay. All right, not bad. This material is kind of defectionary. Lots of defects, but it's not too bad. I've seen a lot worse. Yeah, I'm feeling kind of tired today. I don't know what it is. Of course, I just mowed the lawn, so maybe it's the stuff in the air affecting my allergies. I don't really feel energetic right now, which is okay. I don't want to hit this too energetically. We'll see. I'm feeling like I need to do something drastic to get a big old spall off of this. Even at this stage, I can spall it to try to get nice flakes for at little dart points. But I'm just kind of creating a better edge. I'm trying to regularize it a little bit. Yeah. It's a mix of very easy to nap, but not very many opportunities for good flakes because of the defects. You know, the flakes are containing the defects. You know, when you remove bad material, that bad material looks like a big old flake, but it's got defects in it. But I think that one was a nice, yeah, fairly nice portion of this material. So that's a nice arrowhead flake. And I can probably take another one across this way. I can flatten this side a little bit more, flatten this side, and then I can take off some of that edge and start doing the inward strikes over the turtleback. And this is not the only way to do it. That's just the way that I decided consciously to do it. Why did I take that flake now? Because I want to reduce mass off the end a little bit. And that was just too bulky there for my taste. I'm going to be striking in the middle. I don't want stuff hanging out on the end. I can, you can make arrowheads out of these little ones too, especially when they're nice like that, nice color. Little bitty arrowheads, yes, it's true, but still, they existed. So I can hit this ridge here, this bump from either side, that side or that side. Just the question is, where is it better? Well, I'll just do my best to try to prepare each side. So if one side doesn't work, I can hit the other side. I can try to run that ridge here, get rid of some of that. That way I remove some of this. It'll expose that platform a little bit better. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that did make a little bit of a difference. Help to expose that platform a little bit better once I get that abraded more. Yeah. So now it's easier for me to hit that platform. It's not ideal because the surface on this side is so bumpy. The perfect platforms are the ones that the flake over grind guys make. Look at the way the flake over grind guys do their platforms. Those are the perfect platforms. Alright, so that one was a nice flake, and you want it not to go all the way. You don't want it to go all the way across. You want it to stop before it goes all the way across. That's the best kind of flake, not the overshots. Okay, and that'll make a nice little dart point. Now we got a hole here, so this can't be part of our finished product. So you take that into consideration when thinking ahead. It's either got to be in the middle or completely removed. Since we can't, this is not in the middle of the point. The middle of the point is not too bad for stuff like that because you can just nap around it and keep it thick, and something like that is okay in the middle. I say okay because a lot of times it'll cause it to snap in half, but to have it on the edge defeats the purpose of the blade itself. The blade is supposed to have a very consistent sharp edge. If it's got nasty stuff on the end, on the edge, it's not going to be sharp in that area. The whole object of these things is the edges, the cutting edges. That's the whole purpose. What you're doing is just building a shape with a cutting edge. Ultimately, it's the cutting edge that matters. That's what they're for. Yeah, they're pretty and they're made a certain way and they reflect cultural influences and they're prized as money sometimes and blah, 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 blah. But the purpose of these things is to create an object with an edge. That's it. Yeah, points too. It needs to have a point. But not all of them. Like there's some knives with very rounded points. They're not used to puncture anything. The point itself in a lot of these rounded knives is used for cutting, slashing, not penetrating, but slashing with the point. Which I gotta watch that. If it takes off too much. See, I said this was where it stopped, right? Is that no? This is where it stopped. But see, if you start taking off too much of the edge, it defeats the purpose of having these flakes stop. You know, an overshot would be essentially the same thing. You have to try to preserve as much of the edge as possible. And you can if you have material there. Sometimes you just can't, but at least there's a possibility that you can if the edge is still there. You can't preserve it if it's not there. Alright, let's see. What am I going to do? I'm still trying to flatten this out. But at some point I've got to stop flattening and think about the other side. Think about the turtle back on the other side. I may have to lose some of the tip to run that ridge. I gotta lose that material anyway. This crunchy stuff can't be on the edge. This is all crunchy, not crunchy, but this is all a cortex type material. It's not sharp. It's very crumbly. So I gotta lose that anyway. Got to be careful about how much I lose. I don't want to lose too much. Now, why am I taking it back? So I can run flakes here to remove this. See, it's thinner here on the back than it is up there. I've got to reduce this before I start smacking it in the middle. Remember, a lot of you guys want to thin down the middle first and then work on the ends, and that's the no-no. I did that too. Oh yes. You learn, after a while you learn. Can't do it. Yeah, nice. With accurate strikes you can do that. Now if I tried to do that with direct percussion, I probably could not get the accuracy. Or that one either. See, this allows me an accurate strike on the platform. I would say that's about a 60-degree angle. Nice little gouging initiation with the indirect percussion flaker. This one doesn't remove it on the slide. This gouges, it just pulls it quickly. But with accuracy, even if it has a big bulb, if that bulb doesn't travel too far inward, and removes some of that thickness. Okay, and that's a nice arrow point flake. Now, did they make big blades in the same time periods as they made arrows? Oh yes. In fact, you'll find big blades with, arrow points. Sometimes they're crude big blades. I think they used to make more attractive large blades in the earlier times than in the later times. During the later periods, it seems they didn't really care too much that the big blades were wonky. But they did care a lot about how their arrowheads looked. The little bird points were real, true arrow points. They did care about how they looked. Okay. Maybe they didn't care too much of how the big blades looked because they're not throwing them at anything. They're not part of the missile or a projectile system. With a projectile system, it's very important how they look for balance and sharpness, whatever else the point is supposed to be accomplishing in the projectile system. Okay, so I'm almost out of time. I could probably, in the little bit of time I have left, I can remove a big old flake and then call it good and put it aside with that other large biface to be napped later. And I think I will do it on video, although when it gets too thin, I'm going to have to switch off the camera to actually get it down to where it'll be very thin without risking breaking the whole thing. All right, let's see. Yeah, it's not worth risking breaking the whole thing on video. To do a video on it is too risky. It's not worth it. Because now, if I didn't care about preserving these for sale or for display, if I didn't care, then yeah, I'd do it on video. But to get it really, really thin on these particular pieces, I'm not going to do them on video. All right. Ooh, I hit that really, really hard and it didn't do much. Except there's an incipient crack, which means I didn't hit the platform just right. That's a little bit dicey there. I'm going to hit it again to get rid of that turtleback, but I got to make sure that incipient crack doesn't go very far. It doesn't seem to be going very far, so I can hit it again. Okay. Nah. For some reason, it's just not gripping. So I'll leave it. I'll figure out why it's not gripping enough to peel off a large flake. It's just kind of glancing. All right, that's it.